What's cracking, everyone? My name is Ryan, and today we're taking a look at the Sony WF1000XM5 earbuds. Now, these retail in at $299, and I bought these myself. So, of course, all thoughts and opinions are of my own. So the XM5, as I will refer to them, are Bluetooth 5.3. It's 2.4 gigahertz, pretty typical for this. It supports many different profiles. And as far as codecs, you're going to get up to an LDAC codec, as well as SBC, AAC, and LC3. And then technical wise, the driver is a dynamic driver. It's an 8.8 millimeter dynamic driver, and it's actually called Dynamic Driver X. It is Sony's in-house driver that they made, and it's got a new updated processor as well inside of the unit that we will talk about as we get into some of these features. Now, before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about what you get inside the box. So first of all, I will tell you that the box itself is made of all recycled materials. So a little bit of a nod to those environmentalists out there. Thought that was kind of nice they did that. You can definitely tell when you get the box out. Then inside the box, you are going to get the charge case that holds the earbuds inside of that. You're going to get four tips, I should say 4 pairs of tips between extra small, small, medium, and large. And what I will tell you with the tips is these are polyurethane foam tips that Sony has developed. The inside of the tips has this mesh that will actually block out things like earwax and residue that's going to be from your ears, so it blocks out the ick. That are included with the tips that you get. You get the instruction manual, and then you will get a fairly short, typical USB-C charge cable for the case. And as I said, the case is actually wireless charging compatible as well. All right, so let's talk about build and comfort next. So build-wise, first of all, I'll start with the case. The case is a nice, matte finish. It's hard plastic, but it's sturdy and it doesn't like wobble or anything when you open and close the lid. And, open and close is easy enough. You got the nice little light there that tells you if it's charging, and when it's charged, it's green, obviously. It plugs in on the back. There's a reset button on the back as well. And then when you take out the earbuds, these are a solid plastic resin type material on the earbuds. It is a matte finish on the touch part of this. So I really like that because it's not going to show up fingerprints quite as easy for when you're wearing them. And then it is a gloss finish around the rest of it, so that will show up fingerprints. They're pretty lightweight. I think they're somewhere around 5.6 grams, somewhere in there as far as the weight goes. And then, putting them in their ear, putting them in my ear. I'm not going to put them in your ear. They are pretty comfortable and fit right in, but there is something on the comfort that I think is very important to note, and that is on the tips. So as you can see, these are not the included tips that Sony gave me. These are actually the CP360 from SpinFit tips. And the reason for that is the polyurethane foam tips that Sony included did not seal with me. And I tried all different combinations. I used the app, which I'll talk about here soon, to kind of help me decide if they were fitting right. I couldn't get a good seal. I would get a seal for maybe a few minutes at a time sometimes in one ear or the other, but never both at the same time and never for a long period. And that's really disappointing, to be honest. I mean, especially from a company like Sony to include 4 sets of tips and have none of them work for me. That's not good. And that's actually something that I looked up online and found that other people are having this issue too. They even had this issue, I think, with the XM4 I found. Now, thankfully, because I did look this up, I was recommended those SpinFit CP360s, and those seal just fine for me. I use the medium and large size. Perfectly fine, and they sound really good. I don't think there's a lot of deviations in sound quality using these compared to the foam tips, other than they don't seal quite as solid, especially with the ANC on, and that's something that shouldn't be, because the ANC just doesn't work quite as well when I'm using these alternate tips for me. And yeah, I will say, once I got the seal, comfort's really good. These are one of the most comfortable earbuds, earphones, IEMs that I've worn, to be honest with you. they kind of disappear in my ears, which is the way it should be. So I'm very thankful for that. I just wish Sony would have figured out these tips. I got to think they did enough testing that they could have realized this ahead of time. And I haven't seen any alternate tips yet out there to buy, but hopefully Sony will make some that will fit well, and they won't charge you too much for those that have already bought these and they don't fit, because I really like the way the thought behind the design of the foam tips they included, especially the fact that it's got that mesh filter so it can, block out the gunk in your ear, but they just don't work. And, that's a damn shame, because I wish they did. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and move on. I'll tell you a couple of last things about features. First of all, the charge time for this, you're going to get about 3 charges out of the case, so about 24 hours max with the earbuds, because you're going to get about 8 hours max with these earbuds when you're using ANC. Now, if you don't want to use ANC at all, you can get about 12 hours. And I did find that when I was using these, it's pretty accurate there. 7 hours if you're doing constant communications, at least that's what it says. I didn't actually, do that in my testing. And then the wireless range is about 10 meters, about 30 feet. I definitely found that to be pretty accurate in my testing. And then also something to note about charging with these earbuds, and another, kind of disappointing thing about Sony that I found is I did notice my left earbud was losing charge faster than the right. Now, it wasn't extremely off. It was probably like 3 or 4% when I noticed this, but it is something to be a little bit concerned about. And I have looked this up and read that this is an issue that Sony is looking into. I really hope it's just simply a firmware update, because if that's the case, that's an easy fix. And, as of right now, at least, it's not a deal breaker for me, but it's still something to note there as far as the charging goes. Lastly, it is IPX4 equivalent. So, splash guard and sweat, things like that are not going to affect these when it comes to that. Just don't go jumping in a 6-foot pool and expecting these to come out okay. All right. Now, with all of that, we are going to take a look at the app and all of the features that come with it, because I think it's really important to understand just what these things can do when you utilize the app. So let's dive into that now. All right, guys, we're going to be taking a look at all of the features of the app. And this is like my third take now, because the first time, well, I wasn't using my screen recorder on my phone. So that was smart. All right, so when you first open up the app, you're going to see that you are using the XM5 or whichever ones that's working with this app. In this case, obviously XM5. My LDAC codec is currently working. However, if I was using my DSEE Extreme, that would also be popped up here. Now, I'm not playing music right now, so more than likely that's why that's not popping up. Now, my left and right earbuds are showing their percentage of charge there, and the left and right, the only reason that's off right now is because I had the right one out and paused for a second. So other than that, it shows your case charging status. If you hit that little exclamation point, it's going to explain a couple of things about that. Now, when we go down first, we're going to see we're under the status tab, and under the status tab, the first thing you'll see is the adaptive sound control. Now, basically what this one is when you go into the adaptive sound control, it is going to let you choose, or let the app choose, depending on where you're at, what it's going to do with ANC, with ambient sound and things. Now, I will tell you that to get this to work correctly, you are going to have to, turn on or turn off, whichever way you want to look at it, some privacy settings in your phone. So if you're not comfortable with that, obviously you don't have to do it, but it wants to know your location so that it's going to learn that if you're at home, it'll turn on a certain setting. If you're at work, if you're out walking, running, whatever. It is cool. It does work, but just know that about the privacy settings. And then the next thing you'll see there is it's just simply telling you your multi-point connect. In this case, I am connected to my phone, and I was connected to my laptop, but I disconnected that. Otherwise, that would show that up there. And then the current track that's playing, which I've got that paused right now. All right, so next let's go ahead and look at sound. And track keeps playing. All right, so when you go into the sound tab, the first thing you're going to see there is the ambient sound control. Now, if you click down, you're going to see that you can either have noise canceling on, ambient sound on, or you can just turn it off. And then you've got the level of ambiance you want to use. The only reason this is going haywire is it keeps trying to automatically detect what I'm doing, but it does work if you put it on manual. And then voice pass-through is basically just so that if you wanted to basically turn down your environment, you could just hear voices And as I said, turn down the environmental sounds around you. Now, Speak to Chat is actually a really cool feature. Basically, what Speak to Chat does, if you look at that little information there, is if you're listening to music and you start talking to somebody, you'll hear this beep, and basically it'll turn off whatever music that you're playing, and it will basically just boost your voice so that you can hear yourself and others around you in the environment. It's a really nice feature to have, but I gotta tell you, you gotta be a little bit careful, because if you're somebody like me that when I rock out to some music, I like to sing along, well, that Speak to Chat's gonna kick on, and suddenly your music's gonna pause. So just be careful about that. Now, you can go into the gear icon, and in the gear icon, you can actually set the sensitivity of the Speak to Chat, turn that down or up. Same thing with when it goes back to your music. When you stop talking, you can turn that to, I believe 5 seconds is the lowest. It can go up from there so that your music will play automatically when you are not talking. Now, equalizer, we're going to come back to this because I want to talk about this as we, kind of segue into sound. Same thing with the 360 reality audio. We'll come back to that too. Bluetooth connectivity quality, Bluetooth connection quality. Right now, I've got this on prioritize sound quality. If you want to use the LDAC codec, you're going to need to leave that on prioritize sound quality. Otherwise, you want to put it on prioritize stable connection. If you maybe are just in a place where you don't have a solid connection all the time and you just want to listen to music and not worry about those codecs. Now, the DSEE Extreme, it is set on auto for me. You can turn that off if you like. Basically, what that is, I had to look it up on Sony's site. Don't ask me what DSEE stands for. Someone's probably going to tell me in the comments, I'm sure. But it basically will upsample your mix. So if you're listening to a lower quality file, it can upsample that for you. Sometimes it's going to make it sound better. In a lot of cases it will. Sometimes it may not. So, that could be something that you want to flip on or off, or you could just, as it says, leave it on auto because it won't do it all the time anyway. All right, so then the last thing here is the spatial sound and head tracking. Now, this one is a little bit interesting in that it actually will measure and set the wearing angle of your headphones so that you can enjoy spatial audio sound. This is something I tried to do, and quite honestly, I was having a little bit of problems with it, but I don't really have a whole lot to say about that feature other than it's supposed to help with some staging and things, and it is a little bit different from the 360 reality audio that I talked about, so note that. All right, so we're going to go back up at the top and go over to System next. Now, first thing you're going to see here is the multi-point. I've got it flipped on, of course. It's really easy to do when you do flip it on, and you can look at the status there under the exclamation point. But like I said, multi-point works really nice. My headphones connected to my phone here, and then I was able to go ahead and turn on my laptop, and it found my earbuds connected to that. I showed 2 right away, so it's nice for the multi-point. Voice assistants, just like it sounds, you can choose between your Google Assistant if you have that, Amazon Alexa. You can just not use it at all, or something that will work with your mobile device. Now, I don't know iPhone users out there. I'm sure you're curious about that with iPhone. I don't know. I don't have an iPhone, didn't get a chance to test that, but those are the options that are on there. And that all works with the touch features, obviously, of the earbuds. Now, the touch sensor function. Now, for this one, the left and right will do different things. And if you want to change that around, you can do that here. I'm not going to run through all of that, but basically, as you can imagine, that's what that's about. Yes, exit. And then ambient sound control setting. This is so that you can decide on my left earbud, if I tap it once, it'll turn the noise canceling on. Tap it again, it'll turn my ambient sound on. Tap it again, it goes back to noise canceling. Or you can have it choose to just turn it off as well. Simple feature there. Quick access, there's quick access things you can do on your earbuds for double taps, triple taps. You can customize that. I have not, didn't feel the need to, but it is there. Head gesture. This is another interesting one. So you actually can measure your head, and basically, like if you nod up and down, if you're getting a phone call, it can answer the call. If you go like this and go no, it'll basically hang up the call. Again, I'm an animated person sometimes when I listen to my music, so head gesture is a no-go for me because I might be talking to somebody and like, yeah, I understand, or no, I don't get it. Boom, hang up on them. And maybe I meant to, but maybe I didn't. So yeah, it's kind of a cool feature, but something I don't want to use. Determine optimal earbud tips. Very cool setting, and it works good. I recommend trying it. This is how I pretty much confirmed that the stock ear tips were no-go for me. You can actually, test different sizes in your ear, and it's going to come up with this, and it's going to take you through this, testing of it all and compare the different sizes and tell you which ones are the best recommended for you. And if you wiggle them around a little bit even, it can help you with that. So I highly recommend trying that out if you do other ear tips like I did. Automatic power off, kind of like it sounds when you put them away. It's going to shut off your power. If you don't want to do that, you can change that. Same thing with pause when headphones are removed. When you take these out of your ear, it will pause your playback. Kind of a nice feature. I like that. Capture voice during a phone call. I've got this on. I like to be able to hear my voice when I'm speaking, simply because if I got my ANC on or something like that outside, sometimes my voice is muffled. I like to be able to hear to make sure I know what I'm saying when I'm talking to somebody. And notification and voice guide. I'm not going to run through this one, but basically just like it sounds, it's notification volume settings and different things like that that'll guide you. Update software, self-explanatory. Initialize settings is basically kind of your reset button for your app. Now, if we pop into services next at the top, you're going to see, just an introduction to services first, but you'll see it works with Spotify Tap, Endel Quick Access, and then Autoplay, which is their beta, basically music player. Now, I didn't try those simply because I don't have any of those services, and I didn't install the Autoplay, but I use Tidal, and it works with Tidal. It just doesn't show you there because I've already got that set up. Service link, I've got that toggled on at the bottom because, like I said, this works really well with Tidal. And now we are going to scroll down to the bottom. You'll see here that we're going to go to the Activity tab. For those of you that like to game out there and like badges, this tab's for you. So basically, you'll see at the top right, you can get a badge for all different kinds of things that you're going to do with these earbuds to earn just something fun to, follow along with. Safe listening, though, I really like this option on this app. It basically is in conjunction with the World Health Organization, and basically it's going to tell you your current sound pressure that you're listening to, the dBs. And actually, I'm going to pause talking for a second here and let my music play. All right, so as you can see there, when I turn the volume up, it went up, and then when I turn the volume down, it went down. It works really well, and it's a nice way to test if you're listening to something a little bit too loud, which, I was safe there, but it's really cool to do. Log, I'm not going to go to that tab because it actually shows some personal information I don't really want to show about some things, but that's what the log is. Then at the bottom, Information tab. This is simply information about Sony products in general, and then tips. Not ear tips, just like it sounds, though. It's going to give you tips on the earbuds and the app and things like that you can do. To play compressed tracks and better audio, use DSEE Extreme. So see? Tips. All right. With all that, guys, let's go back to EQ because, like I said, there are some unique things they do with EQ. All right. So the first thing I want to start with, if you go to EQ, you'll notice that typically I have this off. Okay, so I've got EQ off right now, flat. Nothing's going on there at all. You have 5 segments of the EQ that you can mess with. You've got your clear bass, which is basically a bass boost feature. None of that's on. Now, if you scroll over to go to bright, what you're going to notice is it's going to stair step up from 1K all the way up to your presence for your vocals and things, and then all those high-end instruments. To me, I think of like a lot of classical music. Classical music lovers might enjoy the bright setting a little bit just because it's going to give you more brilliance of some string instruments and things. So that's something that obviously you can mess with. I think excited is going to be the one that's going to gravitate to more people, to most people. Definitely did for me. This is kind of the V-shaped tuning. It's going to give you a huge bass boost, but then it's also going to give you a brilliance boost in the treble. So you're going to get some real energetic music. If you listen to EDM, hip hop, things that are going to get you up and get you moving with your earbuds, working out, jogging, running, whatever it is, something that just wants to get you in your music. Not that you can't get in your music without this, so don't take me wrong there, but that's what excited is, and it's aptly named. Now, mellow, just like it sounds, maybe you're just wanting to be in a chill mood, and it gives you a decrease to bass, but also just like tones down everything in the high end so nothing's piercing, kind of like that. Relaxed is a little bit of the same thing as mellow with much less bass. Vocal, for the you vocal lovers out there, it's not going to give you a decrease of bass. It's going to give you a little bit of an increase actually to the upper bass to lower mids, but then you're going to get some nice good boosting to your presence region, and it's going to tone down the brilliance. So sibilants and things like that are going to not be quite as harsh if they were even harsh to begin with. And it definitely is good for vocal lovers in my opinion. Treble boost, just like it sounds. If you want to stab your ears, go for it. Bass boost, just like it sounds. If you want to knock in. If you want to knock around your head. If you want to boost your bass, you go right ahead with that. Speech, I think this is a cool one. This actually, to me, if you're somebody that likes podcasts and things like that, and you want to, just hear that clearly, or maybe you're just at home working all day or at work working all day, in the office conference calls and things, this is going to help your speech. It is going to boost, the ranges of your voice well, but it also tones down the sub bass all the way. So kind of nice feature. Manual, just like it sounds. Click on the gear, you go into manual. You can adjust all those yourself. You can adjust your bass down there at the bottom yourself. Custom 1 and Custom 2, switch this back off, is the next part. So if you go to this Find Your Equalizer here, and you click on Start, this is going to take you through different segments of a track. Now, I highly recommend to do this with the track you're very accustomed to and how you like it to sound, and make sure it's a track that encompasses a lot of different things. Don't do a track that's just all bass or all treble. Have something that's got a little bit of everything so that you can really fine tune what you want your personal EQ to be. And I can't really go through this because the music has to play, and every time I talk, the music stops, but I can at least show you this first segment to see what I'm talking about. So this first part is going to be your bass region, and basically you tap on each one of these circles, and it's going to play your song with different types of boosting or deboosting to that part of the frequency. And then when you find the one that you like, you click next, and you keep going through that till the end. At the very end, it's going to spit out your custom EQ profile, and it's actually going to show you what that custom EQ profile looks like. So mine, for instance, on Custom 2, I've got a brilliance boost, a little bit of boost at 6K, and then I've got a nice little sub bass boost. That's what it decided that I like the most. I do actually like that setting. You can redo this as many times as you want, and obviously you can have 2 different custom profiles. Not sure if you can add more than that, but to me, I thought that was enough with the other features. So really cool thing of the EQ. And then the 360 reality audio setup. And I think this is a really fun feature as well. So this one, basically, when you start this, it will ask you to take a picture of your ears. You basically just have to hold your phone out to the side and it'll do it on its own. You do that with your left and right ear. And then your app has to be optimized. So I optimize this with my Tidal because Tidal has 360 audio. So, obviously make sure whatever service you're using uses that. And then basically what that does is when I listen to my 360 audio songs on Tidal, it gives it that unique, very open space feeling. And actually the best way I know to describe that, I was listening to Michael Jackson's Thriller. It was a track on there that was 360. And at the very beginning, you hear the door creak open and shut, and it just sounds like you're just there in the room with that door shutting. And then you hear the person walking by, and they're walking around you. And then you start to hear howls and things, and the song starts. It is such a cool experience, I gotta admit. This reminds me of environmental things that you can turn on when you're playing video games. And I felt like I was in a room with speakers all around me. I didn't feel like necessarily that my stage got really wide and expansive. So it's an artificial space, but man, it's cool. And it's something that I definitely recommend you try if your service provides that. If anything, just for the fun feature of it and to do something different every once in a while. And I will say, not every 360 track sounded great. There were some that I could tell maybe weren't recorded the best, but Michael Jackson's Thriller, if you like that song, try it out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, so now we're going to segue this into sound that we've gone through the app and the EQ. And what I can tell you for the default sound of the earbuds is that, in my opinion, they're tuned very safe. And what I mean by that is, now there is some bass energy going on there for sure on the default settings. So I don't feel like these are lacking in bass, but I feel like mid-range and treble is a bit relaxed in both regions, and that neither are going to be very harsh and push forward in front of you or anything like that. You know, some track examples, you know, one I can give you, at least for bass, is called Mirror Mirror. It's multiple artists. I'll pop this up on here. Now, this track is what I'm talking about with the bass. Even on the default setting, they have some slamming bass on this track. And I mean, it is impressive. It was one of the first tracks I sampled on this earbud and thought, okay, all right, right on. We got some bass going on here. And I feel like, you know, earbuds definitely should, especially if you got a proper seal. But then talking about mid-range, there is a track I want to bring up here, and that track is Blackest Day. Again, artist, I'm going to pop that up here. But the reason why I brought up this track, this is more of a vocal-focused jazz, classical, a lot of instruments going on in this track, and this kind of shows off the mid-range capabilities of this earbud. And I think the mid-range is very full, and it's got good presence in the present region to give you decent vocals there. But it's not anything that's pushed forward. In fact, if I would say anything in the mid-range, maybe a little bit further back in the general mix, but you get good details of instruments, good enough details for instruments with this being Bluetooth. And then when we segue into the treble's definitely tame enough to where I didn't catch any sibilance. I didn't catch any harshness on any tracks that I was listening to. When I did listen to classical arrangements with strings and things like that, you know, there was nice brilliance there, but it wasn't overly bright ever. You know, even when I listen to metal music and hard rock music that can really just scream in your ear, I wasn't getting that feeling from this on the default tuning. So I think Sony has really tuned this in a way to tell you they want you to use the EQ, they want you to use the app. Now, you can absolutely use these without the app, and I think a lot of people are going to be generally pleased because I think it's a, you know, pretty safe tuning, as I said, that is going to appease a lot of people with the, you know, the music playback that you're going to get out of these, and the fact that, like I said, you do still get good bass. I feel like, and I'm not trying to put everybody in the same bucket when I say this, but I think most of us will enjoy at least a decent amount of bass to make some energy to our music, and I think they did that with the default tuning of this. So now I do think, talking about, you know, stage and imaging, we didn't really touch on that. I don't think these are overly wide. You know, being an earbud and a closed back earbud, a closed in earbud as they are, you know, there's not a big expansive stage that even when we turned on some of those app features, as I said, I didn't feel like it made it feel that way. It just gave it that, it's almost like an AI generated space. If that makes any sense, but I didn't feel like it was very natural in that. And then imaging, I think, is good enough. It's not the most spot on, but it is good enough, especially for, you know, an earbud and being Bluetooth. And then details here. Now, this is where I think if you do listen to some busy music, classical arrangements, as I said, movie scores especially, I noticed this, where there's lots of different instruments going on, things can start to smear a little bit into each other. And that just shows, I think, not necessarily this particular earbud, but I think Bluetooth in general is just not quite there yet with wired, but it's getting close. Because, I mean, I do think these still sound really good and have a lot of good qualities that the majority of people are going to be very happy with how these earbuds sound, other than some other things I've mentioned. So now to kind of wrap this all up, these earbuds have been very good. I've enjoyed listening to them. I really enjoy all the features in the app. I just think there's some really fun things that you can do in the app. You know, the tips, I was pretty disappointed on that. You know, Sony, if you guys can make some tips, I think what it is, if they could just make them a little bit longer, something that would seal better, give us some tips that will work with these that still has that mesh in there. That would be excellent. Figure out the, you know, the charging thing with the left and right earbud. Hopefully they can figure that out. And I think they got a winner here, but I think there are some legit concerns that people have had with this earbud to where I can't fully recommend it to everybody unless you know what you have when you're getting into this, which I do. I own them, and I'm not disappointed that I own them. I just think people need to know the obviously the positives and the not so positives that you can get out of owning a device that's $300, to be honest. I mean, these aren't cheap. So there you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If so, please smash that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel because, well, I've got more things right around the corner that I will get out to you guys very, very soon. I thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.